Okay, well, in our continuing saga here, we have Greg Moody. We may be joined in a minute by Bob Dunn, as a matter of fact, Mindy Godfrey, and I'm Stephen Oliver. And hey, we got on a rant last time, Greg, on what I not to charitably call the Bozo explosion, having freely admitted I stole that from Steve Jobs. But my process in the last 6 months has been. Uh, we have done worked with Dane Kennedy and Jay Abraham and all of the internet marketing gurus, whether it's Frank Kern or going back to Declan Dunn and Corey Rudel, all those guys. And but what we've been doing is, I ordered the 100 books of everybody who's in this industry who's written a book on marketing, and we've all been doing, and I've been, I'm at like 222 different podcasts I've listened to so far, and what's interesting is, and Greg, you know a bunch of these guys, but I've worked with directly the top coaches in marketing and operations and sales and so forth for a whole bunch of different niches. Arjon and with attorneys, Mike Crow with people who do home inspections, a whole bunch of guys who work with dentists and chiropractors and doctors and other people who work with financial advisors and insurance agents. And we were having a meeting, and I guess it's been a year ago or now, and having everybody was having the same lament. Once it was social media and YouTube, and now you got people running around coaching people how to be coaches. In fact, I have a good friend. What's his name? You may remember his name. Car Count. He does auto repair shops. But he was actually doing a program where he was teaching people how to be coaches. And I was talking to him about it. I said, well, so are you still doing that? He goes, no, I got disgusted. So what do you mean? He said, everyone who wanted me to coach them how to be a coach didn't know anything about anything. They wanted to be, they say they wanted to be a coach to, pick a niche, financial advisors, but they didn't have any content. They didn't have any experience. They didn't have any basis. And that's what I'm finding so much again. Recycling it through with this niche, with financial advisors and the like, is it seems like there's three categories. Greg, what would you add to that? I mean, it's just kind of crazy the amount of really bad or stupid advice that's floating around out there.
Well, and I think what happens sometimes is people have some success or moderate success in their own practice, and what they then want to do is, and sometimes it's a natural progression of they have some success in their practice. Some people start asking them questions, and then they go, well, gee, I want to be paid for giving that advice out. And there's a lot of flaws in that logic. One flaw in that logic is their success in their practice may have been really narrow. It may have been because they happen to know a certain group of people, or they had some limited marketing success, and the breadth of their marketing, or the breadth of what they did well for sales, might have been based on their personality. It might have been based on maybe the area they were in, or maybe been based on the book of business that they brought over from their original work they did with a larger company. So there's a lot of reasons why somebody might, in a single operation, have some success. What we deal with is reality and facts and science that's repeatable and will work in lots of different situations. And so when people listen to this, we end up seeing a couple different things. But one is somebody trying to give advice, but they haven't had any breadth of experience, which is what I just mentioned. And the other is somebody giving advice about one specific thing, this one marketing piece that they had success with. They got their Facebook plan figured out, and it worked. The last 6 months, we've had some really good success with it. Well, that's just great. But as you and I know, a couple of years ago, we didn't really advise people to use Facebook very much. Now it works really good. In 6 months, the government might take away, might make privacy laws really restrictive, and Facebook won't work very well again. So
well, it's already been headed that way. The amount of targeting is shrunk down dramatically.
Well, exactly. And so we've got a lot of, what we have to do is keep track of the overall picture of what's working well for both, marketing, for attracting new business that works for referrals. And those things change over time. And that's one reason when we had the pandemic that our clients continued to have success during that time, because they understood the big picture of their business. And so when people get advice from from other people, these so-called gurus, and like you termed it, the Bozo explosion, very frequently there's not much meat behind what they're saying. There's not much substance to what they're talking about. A lot of these guys are really well-meaning. They're trying to be helpful, but it's really more based on their ego, their personality, and not very well based on a really strong business background.
Up on what you said, a couple sentences ago, they're a one-trick pony, right? So they had some success with this thing, and instead of sticking to that, they try to become the expert in all of this different stuff, and then it falls apart, right? I was listening to one. Mindy, I told you about this one. I was listening to one. I won't tell you who it is, but I listened to a couple of podcasts. And I said, oh, he's got a pretty engaging personality. He seems sort of knowledgeable on the internet marketing stuff, and we're a good judge of that. I mean, hell, I wrote a book on using the internet to market your practice back in 1999, back when it was Alta Vista and GoTo. But I was listening, going, well, he's pretty good at that. And then he did a section on direct mail, and I'm like in the car, doing this, going, oh my God, is it possible to be any more clueless? And basically, he was talking about he went through property records to find people who had expensive homes in his area, and then mailed to them basically his blog post in a package. I'm going, oh, this is ridiculous. He had no idea. We're going to do a separate segment on direct mail, but no idea that Don Lee at Info USA have what's called compiled lists, that SRDS has response lists. So you could buy the subscriber list to a magazine. So if you wanted to pick a magazine, you want to buy the Barron's list is probably available, the Smart Money list, etc. That's the way you do gold direct mail. But it was just completely clueless. I was listening to another one, and I listened to several, and it was pretty technical. And then one of them, he says, "Oh yeah, the reason I did these podcasts is I just hated selling, and I hated new client development, and hated all the marketing side." I'm going, well, okay, so you're trying to teach everybody how to do marketing, and you'll appreciate this one, Greg. That same person was lamenting another company that didn't have their entire price sheet on their website, that it was wasting people's time, that they would come in and talk to them because they hadn't disclosed, what the hourly rate was, what the total fees were, everything else, what the expectations of the engagement were on their website, which we know is just the dumbest idea ever. You don't put the cart before the horse. You have to show value and show them what you do, and frankly, see if there's a good fit before that's even relevant, right?
Yeah, and that's a good point that you just said. When you say one-trick pony, there's two dimensions of that. One is they claim to be marketing experts, but they're only marketing in one area. But the other thing that we see again and again is they're really only good at, let's say, marketing, and they might actually have some breadth in marketing, but they're not good at the next piece, which is how the sales process should work, and then how the customer retention process should work. And then within that, maybe how the retention process should work to expand to maybe helping service the family members and have a legacy. And that's what we really care about, because what we don't want to have in any business for that matter, but particularly in as an advisor in this world, is we don't want to have people come in and then leave. And one thing that we talked about a while ago was that 60% of clients in a practice are not that happy with their investment advisor. And, that's a telling statistic. And I think it's because a lot of these people are not either getting bad advice or just not getting any advice at all.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to a number that it's even worse than that. They probably don't remember who the guy is, because there's just very limited communication. Especially the ones that sell them a product and then just kind of hope that they stay on it forever and hide under the desk. What I'm always trying to develop is a client communication process where you're 50 times a year, 70 times a year, at the very least, every other week they're hearing from you by mail and one thing or another, as well as preferably every day, which is difficult by email, but at least a couple times a week they're getting emails from you. And of course the problem is it just becomes real generic stuff, and if you don't have personality built into it, you're not developing that loyalty. But anyway, so, we should probably wrap up on this rant, but to go back to what you were saying a minute ago, Greg, is you have, one is an awful lot of people who haven't been where you're at, dug the ditches you've dug, had to go through the heavy lifting. And if they haven't done client face-to-face, belly-to-belly, hundreds, if not thousands of people, and they don't have a sense of how the conversation flow goes, what the objections, what the concerns are, where things can go sideways, they're not really able to handle, what really happens in the day-to-day. The other element is on the marketing side is, again, and this is true in like all different niches, you get the dentist who decides he's going to study a little bit of marketing, and then he suddenly becomes the dental marketing guru, which, in almost all cases is just, it's a knowledge that's an inch deep and a mile wide, right? So you get that kind of thing. And then within this niche, it's the same thing. People who have mostly just kind of grown their practice through organically, slowly, and then all of a sudden they want to teach you how they exploded their practice, which has in reality been open for 10 years. And the first 3 or 4 years they starved because they didn't know anything other than the vacuum cleaner thing. Go sell your mother-in-law and your neighbors. But so that's a couple of the problems. I think the other problem is that there's an awful lot of people out there who are really good at selling you to listen to them that don't have much substance underneath it. And I mean, that's true at all different levels. I mean, hell, I did an MBA and, 5 out of 6 of the professors have never run a business. So, and Greg, as you can imagine, Mindy, I had a number of arguments with professors. I remember I took a managerial accounting class and took the final, and the guy says, "So what did you learn that was effective at running your business in this class?" I said, "Not a damn thing." He said, "Nothing?" I said, "Well, no. I mean, there was, there was 20% of the content that was useful, but I already knew all of that. And he didn't go into it deeply enough to get any new insights. And the other 80% was just total horseshit that had nothing to do with my business." I had the same argument with a finance professor who told me that it was impossible to do what I just did. He was talking about level of capitalization to build a business. I said, "Well, how about a $2 million business, on $10,000 and a couple of credit cards?" He said, that's not impossible. That's impossible. I said, "No, it's not impossible. It's just stressful." So, it's in academics, it's in, YouTube gurus, it's in all of this different stuff. But with financial advisors, you got to be really careful about the Bozo explosion because it is just absolutely unbelievable. Well, on that note, we'll call it a day on this as my dog tries to climb on my desk here.
Yeah, I would say that it's good to have some advice. You just need to look for it in the right place.
You bet. You bet.